Everybody.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what he
So
says.
maddening because it costs
Right. Well, I love this. We're here this morning with one of my favorite people. This is Marshall Monroe. You were one of the original. Well, you're an Albuquerquean to start with.
Yeah.
Born and
that's
raised here. You went off and did some awesome things, came back. And then, of
Yeah.
course, Commander Gary Opedal from the city of Albuquerque with us. And you know he's a commander.
He is now.
Honorary.
Honorary.
He is
One of
now.
many.
So if he commands you,
I do it. I've got to do it. It's like I got to get paper orders, though.
okay. All right.
But in your case, you went off and did some really fun stuff with Disney.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some other companies, but Disney, I think, is the big one that everybody would recognize.
Yeah.
And worked on some amazing projects with some amazing people. You know,
Yes.
I'd love to name drop on the show when we can, because you worked with Michael Jackson, I know.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
was that like?
Michael Jackson is he's an amazing guy. Was an amazing guy. Still is now that he's working in hologram form in Vegas.
Right?
That's right.
So, you know, I tell people, you know, Michael Jackson, in addition to having a lot of talent, the guy was hardworking and super gentle and loving guy, but, you know, loved to work at it and perfect things. And so, you know, 30 years later, I'm actually working on some stuff involving the show in Vegas that's got the hologram. That's Cirque du Soleil.
Very cool. So we need to kind of give everybody a quick resume here, because not
Oh, okay,
everybody's
sure.
super familiar with what you do.
Oh, okay.
I know that you own Marshall Monroe Magic, which is out of Corrales.
Yes.
And your last big project that I think I knew about was the Wine.com app,
Yeah,
is what
that's
your
right.
studio put together.
That's right.
And since then, you've been doing a lot more things. But before that, you worked on creating one of the biggest theme parks at Disney World, too, right?
Yeah, I was a creative executive, and I was also principal technical staff. My sort of story is I like technology in the service of great creative endeavors and shows and productions, and so Disney was a great place to do that. And so I came up with a concept for a water park called Blizzard Beach, and it's an extremely popular water park. It's in Walt Disney World, and you won't see ads for it because it's closed every morning by 9 o'clock because it's full.
Wow.
It is a really neat, I encourage anybody who wants to check it out, look it up. It is an outrageous idea, and it's very successful.
How do you sell somebody on an outrageous idea like that? If I were to show up and I were to go to Disney and I'd be like,
Yeah.
so I want you to build this thing. I got 15 acres and water and slides and fun houses. Like, how do you convince somebody to, like...
That's a great question. So what we do is, first of all, the concept needs to hold together a whole bunch of solutions to issues. In the case of a water park, you're looking for something that people can do for 3/4 of a day. They're in Disney World. You have a piece of land. You've got all the civil engineering that's required. And in my case, I just saw an integrated resort, which had never been done before. At the time, I wanted to do...
Because this was, what, mid-90s?
Yeah, mid-90s. I wanted to do a hotel integrated with the theme park. So if you think about it, Disney had never done that. And so what I actually pitched was a hotel opening out onto this melting ski resort in Central Florida. And the whole thing was absurd because it never snows there and they don't have any mountains.
Right.
And
so again, how did you convince these guys? Not just a water park, but there's snow in southern Florida. Like, who do you pitch that to, and how does that conversation go?
It's a great question.
And at what point did they tell you get out of here?
Yeah. So what we do is we create what we call storyboards, and storyboards are a seemingly low-tech thing to do, which is a large board that has pictures pinned to it and ideas, thoughts, lots of visuals. And it's an amazing way to step back from something and simply look at it and decide whether or not it'll fly.
Right.
And so you've heard that phrase, does that dog hunt? Well, you take one look at Blizzard Beach, and what happened at the time was we had a CEO named Michael Eisner.
Oh, I've heard the name, yes.
And so I'll tell you this story. So I had this storyboard in a conference room on the 5th floor at corporate there in Burbank, and the storyboard was in the room, and we had about 15 people, because anywhere he goes there were lots of people, you know, sort of milling around, an entourage kind of thing. So, and lots of business interests around this. And so I had the storyboard at the end of the room. Michael was on a conference call in the next conference room. He had two so he could move back and forth. And finally he stuck his head in and he was on the phone with Warren Beatty. because they were working on Dick Tracy at the time.
Wow.
And so he stuck his head in the room. He said, "What are we looking at?" And the head of Imagineering at the time, Marty Sklar, said, "Michael, this is the concept for the water park that we wanted you to see." So it had been viewed and sort of thought, well, this is so crazy, we have to let Michael see it, was basically the arc.
He's the only one crazy enough who would approve this?
He's the only, yeah. I mean, nobody else was going to approve it.
No.
And so it was crazy.
Right.
So he sticks his head in and he looks over and he goes, "Ski Florida, that's the craziest idea I've ever seen. We have to build it. How much?" And Frank Wells, who was the COO at the time, says, $100 million, Michael. And he says, "We have to do this. You know that we should build Little Mermaid, but this is better." And so he built Blizzard Beach. He turned it on, and we
That's
built
amazing.
it.
That's amazing. What are some of the other projects you had? I know you did Captain EO, right?
I was working on Captain EO, the special effects. That was when I first got there. That was basically supposed to be the coolest music video ever made. It's the most expensive 14 minutes of film ever shot.
Wow. Still.
And was a pretty big hit.
Right.
And then Star Tours. Star Tours was right next to it in Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
And that was George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola. It was this incredible thing because at the time Star Wars was kind of hot. And now
That little movie called Star Wars, yeah.
That little franchise.
Yeah,
Right. No.
that little thing. And so I've got pictures of me standing with Chewie, and I look like I'm 12 years old. It's right out of college.
Who's taller, you or Chewie? Because you got to be 6'5".
Got me. He's got the hair thing. The hair gets in the bonus.
That's what I do every morning too. It gives me another inch or so.
Yeah.
But you came back, you went off, you did all this amazing stuff, did all these beautiful things.
It was fun.
And then you said, I'm going to come back home to Albuquerque and I'm going to launch my own firm.
That's true.
And that's something that not many people do. That not many people do want to come back to Albuquerque.
Yeah.
What brought you home?
So for me, there were a couple things. The first one is that I like the outdoors a lot, and I think it's a really important part of sort of a creative environment. So I really like that.
There's not a lot of outdoors in Burbank.
There's not a lot. I mean, you can go to Griffith Park, and up to the observatory, but for the most part, it's traffic.
Right.
So I thought I want to start and expand this idea of magic. So what I consider myself to do is making magic. And magic is this unique form of design that is where you don't accept things being pretty cool. They should be unbelievably cool. And so,
not just a water park in Florida, a skiing water park in Florida.
Melting ski resort with chairlift and umbrellas and beach chairs on it. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
So the idea is come back to New Mexico because, first of all, I like the outdoors. Second of all, I like science and technology. And so we have an interesting community of that going on with the national labs here. Second is digital technology made it possible to be out from these big core urban centers, which for 50 years, the assumption had been, well, you need to be in an urban core to be around stuff and know what's going on.
Right.
And so I decided that actually wasn't going to be the case much longer. And because you could access information through digital form.
You can get it anywhere.
Yeah.
And so the new company is Marshall Monroe Magic.
Marshall
and
Monroe
you do
Magic.
apps, but that's like saying, you know,
Yeah.
that's like saying Denny Hamlin drives a car for a living. It's not the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So in your
Yeah.
case, the new app, we only got about a minute left. It's called Mixonium, right?
Yes.
And this sounds super cool. Give us the elevator pitch on this one.
Here's the quick pitch. Social media has become interesting but shallow. We send a picture, we send a video, we can do simple sort of tweets with some words. We're making a social media post. It's a shadow box that has 7 compartments. You can put anything you want in it. PDFs, maps, videos, pictures, links to websites. So you can quickly tell a deeper story and then send it out on social media. So it's called Mixonium. And because mixing is what DJs do, it's kind of, electronic music is all about the fusion of different forms and being creative within that.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent. We'll be back in a couple of seconds on the Morning Brew with Friends. Want to hear all about this, and maybe later you'll give us a special download code. We can text it.
Yeah, we can do that.
So stick around, and you'll give us the download text number, and we can all get Mixonium on our phones.
Yes.
That'd be awesome. Back in a couple of seconds on the Morning Brew with Friends.
I know.